it. I love it.
All right. All right. Hey, welcome to the inaugural Digital Data Café podcast. I'm Albert Thompson, CEO of DrivenIQ, and host of today's show. I want to introduce the one and only infamous and actually my mentor and personal friend, CEO and founder of Peopletek, Mike Kublin. Mike, thank you for joining us.
Oh my God, Albert, thank you so much. And I'm honored and grateful to be here with you.
Oh man, I can't begin to tell you how grateful I am that you're here. And man, we've come full circle. I was a member of what we're going to talk about today. So
I love it. I love it. Yeah, you're a leadership journey graduate, and you're one of my shining stars, and I'm so proud of you because you've actually implemented what we talk about, and not only talk about what you experience in a journey, you implement it in reality, and that to me is music to my ears always.
Well, I appreciate it. You've made a massive impact in my life, and I'm telling you, it'll stick with me in my entirety, my legacy, and you're going to be a part of that. But you know what are we talking about, right? What is Peopletek? What's the journey? What's your story? Tell us about the Peopletek, how you got here.
Well, thank you so much, Albert. So way that the leadership journey started is way back. I was a director in an IT department of a large financial organization, and that financial organization is fabulous and actually still a customer of mine today. But way back when I was leading this large group of IT professionals, and I got some feedback. It all started with information. I got some feedback, and the feedback was, Mike, you're a visionary, you're motivating, you're inspiring, you're good with relationships, you're really strategic, but you're wishy-washy, and you don't hold people accountable to behavior.
Really?
That kind of, it's true. And that kind of punched me hard. It punched me really hard.
Of course.
I didn't know what to do with it at the time. So I actually went out to lunch with the head of HR. Don't ever go with your HR person.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Anyway, so I went out with Herb. He's a good friend of mine. And he said, Mike, you need to do something about this because you're moving yourself up. You're going to be, getting way ahead, and you got to take care of all this now. And I said, well, what do I do? He goes, I don't know.
Right. Oh my God.
I had no idea.
No idea.
So I started to investigate, and I found a woman who had her PhD in educational leadership, and she was a nurse that became a PhD, a doctor in leadership education.
Wow.
And I asked her, I said, can you come in and show me where I'm creating this problem?
Where am I wishy-washy? Where were you wishy-washy?
Exactly.
Right. Let's learn. Yeah. Right.
So she came in, worked with me and our IT organization, but she started with me, and she showed me where my behavior was creating those perceptions. And she did some assessments with me, and it actually came from my strengths. So, I was able to start to shift some things and brought the team together. I said, can you work with us? And we were able to turn our value survey from one of the worst to one of the best in the entire organization and company. We actually did some great work with our team. I was relocated, but I said, this is what I really love to do. I want to develop leaders, and I want to develop teams and organizations. So I got a group of people on the side, and I started a company while I was working this other job. And I ended up, that company didn't work out. We had some issues within ourselves. And then I started, a few years later, I started Peopletek, working with people in technologies. But a buddy of mine said, Mike, instead of TECH, make it a TEK.
Is there anything to that? Is there anything to the K?
It is. It's the reason it's the TEK is, he said, because you're going to work with all kinds of companies, not just tech companies.
I like that.
And it was the greatest move ever. Albert, you and I wouldn't even have met probably if I was only with the TECH.
Yeah, it probably would have never happened. Would have never taken off. It's the K that took you off. No, I highly doubt that. I think you would have made it work.
Thank you.
Albert. So you got punched in the gut. I mean, that was tough, right? And it made you look introspective. It started to show you, right, that I had to find a way to change my behaviors, and that led you to the nurse, and that kicked off Peopletek. It sounds like, was she a part of
It
the
really
start?
did. It did. And then actually, I was running around doing Peopletek. You know, I finally jumped out of corporate America. I was running around doing Peopletek, and I noticed a trend that existed, that a lot of people were a lot like me. They were good at doing a job or a task, great at that, got promoted into leadership, and no one ever developed them. No one ever gave them any tools, methods, techniques. No one ever gave them any insights. So I said, you know what? I don't want other people to suffer with this.
Right.
And so I created a process. I hired another PhD in educational leadership and worked with her. And she took what I was doing with individuals and teams, and we created it into a process. And that process is called the leadership journey, which you're a graduate of.
Which I'm a
and
graduate of.
actually a star graduate. I
Oh
can't
man,
thank
well
you
listen,
enough.
you know, it's just the beginning, and the idea is that, you know, it'll continue to grow. But I will say this, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about the journey, because to this day I use those principles and those practices in my daily business life, and I can't wait for, you know, the audience to hear about the journey and how it's built. But so tell us, what is the journey?
So Albert, with Digital Data Cafe, you've applied the concept. So you got to pat yourself on the back.
Oh my
And
goodness.
and the thing that's important about a journey, and it was labeled appropriately a journey. Why? Because leadership is a process, not an event. I was really felt that most of the leadership development that was out there, and still is today, quite frankly, a person reads a book, or they go to one class, they may go to a Tony Robbins fire walk or something, and they're all good. Everything is good. There's nothing bad. But they go to that and they think, oh my God, I'm finished. That's the end of my leadership development. I got everything mastered. I read 5 Behaviors of a Dysfunctional Team, which by the way, is a phenomenal book by Patrick Lencioni.
Yes.
And it's great. But the problem is these are muscles.
Right.
And leadership muscles take time to build, just like your physical muscles. You don't go to a gym and say, I went to the gym once this year and all of a sudden my muscles are in great shape. You know that. It takes time. It takes energy. It takes emotion. It takes discipline. It takes taking your craft and over and over again. If you want to be a great leader, which is empowering yourself and others to go where they've never gone before, then you must build those muscles, and they must be built over time. So one of our key principles is the following of a leadership compass. We follow this compass, and the compass has 12 different points of focus. And in the journey that you went to, you learned all 12 points.
Yes, that's right. Now, let me ask you a question, because this is interesting. I think you made a really good point, right? You talked about, you go to the book, you do the fire walk. And listen, I think we've all been victim of this, right? We read a book and then we regurgitate a couple of the tidbits in there, and we're just repeating what we've heard, and we think we're super smart and we're the best leaders ever, right?
Yes.
But just like you mentioned, right? Going to the gym, it's a repetitive process. It's discipline, right? You don't, hey, let's just face it. You didn't put on the weight in 2 weeks. You're not going to lose it in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Right. So
you're
a
lifetime and of information from the time you're a child to the time you're grown up to become the leader that you are. It takes another lifetime to keep growing and learning and transforming.
Right. So now so besides the journey, right now, from your experience, how does one get into that disciplined, regimented, routine? Because it's intimidating. I'm not going to listen. Let's not sugarcoat it. I myself have been like, man, I want to become a reader. And, I want to make sure I'm learning everything I can, but, I've got family, I've got life, how does one start building these techniques? And again, I want to get back to the compass too, but just your thoughts.
So the first step is to say, is to follow a discipline. And just like you do on a diet with Weight Watchers or going to a gym, I go to CrossFit.
Yep.
Just like I go to CrossFit and build my physical muscles, there's a process of activities that you get involved in. And over time, if you're doing the right activities, because there's a guy who wrote a book also on the power of the right habits, because you could practice wrong habits until your head.
Very good point. Very good point. Right habits.
It's the right habits. And this guy, Charles Duhigg, who wrote this thing about habits, you got to be following correct ones. When you're following them and then you keep building them, you get better and better. My trainer at the gym, I know he's teaching me the right things. I don't get hurt, but what I do is get stretched to, and I take myself where I haven't gone before.
Right.
And he knows just that level to do it. And then the next couple of days later, you go back and you get some more. Couple of days later, you go get back and get some more. You build different muscles. So
Right.
it's the same thing with leadership development. So
Okay.
for example, we talk about accountability. How
Yeah.
do you hold people accountable?
Yes.
That is a process, not an event. Well, you've got to find out what is it that you're doing that people don't think you're holding them accountable. As much as I've improved over the years, and my team has told me I've improved, I still have ways to go.
Yes. Yes.
So again, I can surround myself by all these people that are fabulous at holding people accountable, and then I can start getting better at it myself. And I found out that everything ties into accountability. For example, your vision, mission, goals, and measures, you can have it, but if you're not holding people accountable to it, then you're saying one thing and doing another.
I gotta tell you, I like that, right? Core takeaway. I mean, if we're listening here, accountability, right? Everything kind of goes back to accountability.
Yes.
And if we're hearing you correctly, right, that's a massively critical component to becoming a better leader, right? So
It is.
let's talk
It
about
is.
that. Tell us about accountability and so here you go. How does one hold people accountable in a productive and positive way and still accomplish the goal?
I think it starts with things like our compass. I'm going to give an example using the compass, which is the journey, which is what you graduated
Yes,
from.
sir.
So if you recall in the journey, the first component of what we have our executive coaches work with people on, and you were assigned an executive coach who worked with you. And the first thing they did is help you understand that being self-aware is your responsibility.
Yep.
You are accountable to be aware. You're accountable to be open, vulnerable, not saying you know it all, but learning every day that you're in this journey process. But even after the journey ends, you're there to learn about yourself and you're to learn about others.
Yes.
Well, what about yourself? What are your goals? What is your vision? What is your dream? What is your aspiration? What special skills, abilities, and talents do you have that you possess that comes so easy and so natural? What do other people possess? Because not only are you accountable for yourself, you are, as the leader, are accountable for a whole team and a whole organization of people.
Yes,
and
sir.
now you know that, Albert. You're
Yes.
running Digital Data Café, and you have responsibility for all the people that are working with you.
That's
so
right.
It's a two-way mirror. You got to not only look in the mirror at yourself, you got to look in the mirror at all the other people and have them do it too. So are they accountable to learn, grow, and transform? Yes.
Yes.
They need to have a vision, a mission, a goals and measures, and they have to hold themselves and other people accountable that that's what they're trying to create.
You know, I always say, and this is my management core belief, and this is what I always kind of hold true to. You know, I don't think that people ever wake up and say, I want to do a bad job today. You know, I just really want to show up late for work and take, you know, an hour-long lunch break or 2-hour-long lunch break. And I want to just, you know, do subpar tasks. And I'm just really looking forward to my manager yelling at me today. I don't believe that. I don't believe that people, you know, intrinsically want to do a bad job. They want to do a good job, but there's other things that are not holding them accountable.
That's
or themselves.
exactly it for themselves. It's not, and it's for them, and it's for their organization. Their organization says only I know the vision, mission, goals. You can't have that information because you'll do something wrong with it. You've got to have a trusting way, a trusting organization, and that's why all these muscles tend to work together with each other. Like if you go into a gym, if you only build your leg muscles,
right,
that's the only part of your body that's going to be strong, right?
That's right.
But everything is integrated, everything. So you can't have your legs strong and your arms weak.
That's right.
Okay?
Yeah, you can't.
It's all integrated together, every component. So how do you do it?
Yeah.
You begin doing exercises. You can still read books. I say reading books like the QBQ, which you read in the journey, John Miller's The Question Behind the Question.
Behind the question.
Asking what can I do and how can I do it, not who to blame and how to blame them, but taking ownership and responsibility. That's a lesson. That's a building muscles on accountability. Reading The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. That's building your teamwork muscles. It's not over. You've got to now practice. Okay, well, what does Lencioni talk about? Lencioni talks about things like how to build trust. Well, how you build trust starts with you and the vulnerability that you're willing to share, and
That's
letting
right.
other people be open and vulnerable so that they can be open with each other and sharing what problems do they see that exist.
That's
If
right.
everybody's hiding problems, then you have a non-trusting team.
That's right. That's right. And I've heard you say this a couple times, and I think we'd be amiss if we didn't, go into it, but vulnerability, right? I
Yes.
think as we grow and as we become better leaders and even, older, right? Wisdom with age, you've got that wisdom. We're getting older, we're getting more wise.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
start to realize that, you always have to maintain that spirit of coachability, that spirit of humility and vulnerability. And in the beginning, right, we all have these defense mechanisms, right? If I need to get coached up, the first thing a lot of times is it's not me. It's not me. I didn't do anything. It's somebody else. And you just don't have that spirit of coachability. And to your point, if you have a team that's just filled with not being open with the problems or being vulnerable, then what do you have?
It's so funny that you say this, Albert. About 4 years or 3 years after I got feedback that I didn't hold people accountable, they did the report again and I improved greatly. However, it
Uh-huh.
was in there that I still need to work on accountability. And they had a coach, I had an executive coach sitting with me, and I said, they just don't get it. They don't get it.
Right.
And he said to me, he goes, I think you're being a little bit defensive. I go, no, I'm not.
Right.
I did his head
Yes.
off.
Yes. And we've
I
all been
did his
there.
head off.
We've all been there. Tell me that nobody hearing this right now has not been there. We've all been there. If you don't say that you haven't been there, you're not telling the truth. Because we take our craft, whether it's managing a team or whether it's managing a project or,
Yes.
sales, and, you fall short. We all fall short. And then when somebody comes to coach, whether it's right or wrong, it's not me. It's this. I didn't do it. So what did you get from that? What happened? Tell us.
So what ended up happening is I recognized, I said, you're right. As soon as he said
As soon
it,
as you said you're being
I
defensive.
started to realize that I was becoming defensive.
Yep.
Okay. And that I had to accept. When you start to learn the different tools in the journey, like you did, Albert, you look at things like magic dust.
Yep.
And so things for me is I'm good with people, I'm good with relationships, and I'm good with, thinking of the dream and the creativity. But if I overuse that, if I overuse my magic dust, it becomes my Achilles heel.
That's right.
It gets in my way. So, you learned yours in the journey.
I
Do you
did.
remember
I
what
did.
it is? Do you
Well,
remember what yours?
I do remember what mine is, but before I share what my magic dust is, why don't you tell us what is magic dust? So we put some context behind it.
Great point.
Yeah, what's
So
magic dust?
Magic dust is the skills, abilities, talents that you possess that are very unique to you, come so easily to you that you would do them for free anywhere you go. And in any job that you have, any role, any responsibility, you're bringing that magic dust. Now, the beautiful thing about it is everyone possesses magic dust. Every person on the planet.
That is right. Everybody's got magic dust.
Everybody. Now, a wonderful person told me recently, she was at a Journey graduation, and afterwards she told the whole class, she said, Mike, the leadership journey is the real diversity and inclusion program. And I said, why do you say that?
Right.
And she goes, because you've all focused on helping everyone understand the special, unique gift that they bring to any role or any responsibility. And you help each person, no matter who they are, understand what that is.
That's wonderful.
About that, but it was beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
It punched me hard because I never thought of it that way. And it's true.
Yeah.
We're no better than any other person on this planet. Every single person. Now, we may be better at doing a certain role at that certain time, but they're better than us at doing other things at those times.
You know what? You couldn't have said it any better. So it's funny that you said that, right? So one of the things that I've been saying actually fairly lately, right, is look, there's 97 things that I'm terrible at. Terrible. There's 3 things that I know I'm really, really good at, and I'm going to double down on those 3 things. And
exactly. That's exactly what I learned.
Yes.
Double down and surround yourself. I've got great accountability people.
That's right.
If you talk to any of my team, these people are unbelievable. They hold me accountable. They hold others accountable. They are phenomenal. They see things that I don't see.
Yep.
Now, it doesn't mean don't need to get better at? No, it means I still need to get better. But you said is just double down on what you're great at.
Yes.
Let them do what they're great at.
And then empower
respect and
them.
honor.
That's right. And empower them for what they're great at. Because to your point, that's their magic dust. That's the three things they're double downing on.
Exactly.
And then the second thing you said, and I think this is critical, right? Surrounding yourself with those people to make you, the collective is better than the one, right?
I totally believe, and that's why I'm so proud of what you've done at Digital. You're not in there by yourself. You've surrounded yourself with a phenomenal team, and you brought people with their special gifts and abilities and talents. And it is not us that do it alone. True leadership is when you have people that are working together with you for the common vision, mission, goals, and measures. And then all of you align your behavior to it. And that's a process of discipline as well. How do we align our behaviors? How do we talk about these things? Where are we doing it? Where are we not doing it? How are we nurturing our customers? What are we doing? What are we not doing? And it's those discussions that bring leadership alive, bring the 5 behaviors, bring the QBQ alive. And numerous books that we can talk about.
Well, listen, I think we're all curious, so I'll do my magic dust. What's your magic dust? You go first. Everyone's going to want to hear. So, what do you think your magic dust is?
Well, I've talked about it a little bit already. My magic dust is motivating, inspiring, and being there to support people and not judge them as good, bad, right, or wrong, but really empower them to go from where they are to where they want to be, and giving them all the tools to get there. So I'm very sharing oriented and loyal to them.
Oh, I like that. And I couldn't agree. I definitely know that for a fact. So I think what my magic dust that I pulled from it was the ability to really get that rapport and that leadership piece, right? So I can get people to believe in what it is that I believe in, and corral the troops, right? And build that morale and motivate. To your point, I think we share that motivation piece.
We share it very high.
Share the motivation piece and inspiration. And I think at the end of the day, right, it's the passion, right? So I bring the passion to what I bring.
The passion, and I bring the inspiration.
That's right.
It's that passion. We both have similar. We're probably both D's and I's.
We are. I don't know if you remember what we were. We both did it. We're both D's and I's.
I love it. I love it. Right. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So that's the disc, right? So do you want to talk about the disc? Tell us.
So let me talk about the disc, because that's another point on the compass. Tools, assessments, and tools are important for communication. When you talk about, just like you go to a gym and you use weights, these are your weights. So what kind of weights do you use? Well, one of the weights that you learn in the journey is the disc.
Okay.
Whether you're using dominant behavior, which is goal-oriented, results, get things done, pushy. I want to focus. I want to push this thing through.
Yep.
Those are the D's. The I's, the influencers, are people-oriented inspirators. They love getting things done through people. They like motivating them, inspiring them. And then your S's, your steadiness. Those are people that get jobs and tasks done. They steadily move through obstacles and things, and they get things accomplished, and they do it with their heads down. They don't stop. And then the C's, the critical thinkers, or the conscientiousness. Those are very detailed, refining people that love the analytics, love the methodical, step-by-step information. And you need all of them to complete. And you've seen in the Digital Data Cafe, and I've seen in Peopletech, how all of these things come together. You can't just have D's and I's running around motivating and inspiring.
No.
You gotta get a lot of good things done.
It's interesting that you brought that up, right? Because if I recall in the journey, right? So you can almost be, to your point, I think you said it earlier, right? You can be maybe over zealous on your own traits, and it becomes an actual Achilles heel. I think those were your words, Achilles heel. So, because you can become overly bullish. Like, I'm bullish on me, I'm bullish on Albert, but I can maybe overshoot, right? Without that cross check of those additional people on the team, right?
I'm doing Peopletech for 25 years. And before Peopletech, I had another company for 3 to 5 years. And prior to that was working just with Carol, who I mentioned earlier. I have not met a person yet on the planet that doesn't have magic dust and doesn't potentially overuse their special skills and ability. And if you overuse it, if you're too zealous, it becomes your Achilles heel. It gets in your way. And what do I mean by gets in the way? The issue is you may not know it's getting in your way.
Right.
And if it's getting in your way, it's not serving you well.
Okay.
The issue is, are you willing to become vulnerable? Are you willing to work with a coach? Are you willing to look at it? Doesn't mean you have to change anything.
Right.
It just means you might need to tweak just a little bit of a speck so that someone else's magic can be felt and understood and heard.
Because you talk about a lot of times, you talk about the reflection, right? You talk about looking at your reflection and being on a daily measurement of yourself, right? And being able to affirm yourself, and then also, you know, reaffirm some of the things that you need to get done or whatever the case is. But you've got to always have that, you know, looking at yourself from a mirror perspective. I think you talk about that. Well, what do you mean by that sometimes?
Yes. Well, again, everything is a reflection, okay, of you, the people you surround yourself with, the behavior and actions that you link up to, the type of mindset that each person possesses. All of these need to be looked at in a mirror. That's why the awareness is forever ongoing. And you want to have healthy, honoring, respectful conflict. It's another point on the compass. What does that mean? That means, how do we hold ourselves accountable to quality, to accuracy, to process, to discipline, to acumen of all of the information, of the financials, the data. You're in the data business.
Yeah, we're in data business, right?
And it's got to be accurate. It's got to be good. You got to make sure that there's high integrity, particularly dealing with data and analytics. And we're all in a business. And when you take that information, you got to look at it. You got to look in the mirror at how you're using it. You got to have high values, high integrity, because the vision, mission, goals, and measures document is, you could say anything on one side of the equation, but until your behavior and values link up to what you're saying is, you'll have an integrity issue if it's not in alignment. And as a leader, you do not want an integrity issue.
You know, I'm so glad you said that, right? Because there's all different types of leaders. And I've seen leaders that try to win and buy affection. I've seen leaders that try to force, you know, their management style. And to be, you know, completely honest, right? I don't think you get that buy-in from your team until they buy into you, right?
No doubt about it.
All about that integrity piece. So if you were talking to, say, a new manager just coming out and or managing a team, or who knows, maybe a seasoned professional, what kind of advice would you give them? Like, right, you know, like just some of the things, like, say, hey, my team's not working to par. Maybe they're not hitting quota. Maybe they're not listening. What kind of just simple, basic advice would you give them?
I would start to look inside. Okay. The other thing I would say is potentially take the leadership journey.
Well, I definitely think this.
I'll be open with you. I've coached. Last year, 2 years ago, when COVID hit, I started an experiment, and the experiment was, I wanted to take a couple of young folks, and I wanted to see if I gave them everything, my coaching, okay, as many times as they wanted every month, as many emails, meetings, whatever. And I took two gentlemen. Why? Because they both approached me. And here's another one. They both invested their own money in themselves.
There you go.
Now, did I charge them, you know, the premium top things? No, I didn't. But I did. There was a fee. Okay. And there is a fee. They're still in coaching today.
Yeah.
These two gentlemen, one meets with me once a month, and he's very satisfied with that. One meets with me every week.
Wow.
Both are phenomenal. Why are they phenomenal? Because they do everything and anything to implement change to be the best leaders that they can be. They empowered themselves to go where they've never gone before. Now, what do I include in that? I included the leadership journey. Why? Because I need a set of instruments. We talked about the disc, and if you remember in the journey, there's 4 other instruments that a person does, and those instruments are your weights. It's like doing deadlifts. It's like doing, you know, pull-ups. It's like running around the block. You need those assessments. You need those tools to build those muscles.
Yes.
So I had to get them level set with that journey, and so they went through that separately. They were in each separate journeys. And that was the base that gives us a lot of discussion area. Why? Because in the journey, you have to create your vision, mission, goals.
You have to.
You have to understand or begin understanding your magic dust. So all of those things. Then you have a business problem you want to solve.
Yes.
In their case, both of them wanted to get promoted. So that was their goal. The issue is, here's the beautiful thing, and I tell them this, both of them, they're willing to put their own money to that. And I've been doing this for a long, long time. Many people, most wait for their company to take care of them. Now, is that a major issue? No. And it's good that the companies need to do that. It's very important. However, I was just totally blown away with these guys putting their investment into themselves.
That's right.
To me, that's beautiful.
Well, so it's funny that you said that, right? Because if you're not willing to invest in yourself, then the question you should ask, if you look back inside, is why should someone invest in me?
Exactly.
Right? And so then you really have to start to ask yourself, am I doing all that I can do to be the best that I can be? Because if you're not willing to invest in yourself, right? I mean, think about that.
Exactly. That's why I say it's the behavior that really matters. Take a company.
Yes.
A company could say, I'm people-oriented, I'm people-oriented, I'm people-oriented, but they don't invest in their people.
Yeah.
They don't put any development into them. Well, how can you say that and not do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, granted, you might be doing other things for them. I don't know the answer, but usually when you peel it back, they're saying one thing and doing another.
That's incredible. And the fact is, and the great thing about these two young gentlemen, right? So they invested in themselves, but that's a big sign that they wanted to change, and they wanted to change those behaviors, and they were willing to make that personal investment into themselves. So do we have an update on those guys? How are they doing?
I will tell you that within a year and a couple of months, they're both way into year 2. And that was my goal, to see if they continued. Both of them did that, and both of them have been promoted.
That's what I was going to ask. There you go.
Both of them have been promoted.
Congrats.
It is, and they're both so happy with it. I just, it's music to my ears.
Yeah. Well, my goal, when I attended the journey, right, was, and listen, I've always known this, and for many years, I've had several companies. They've done well. They've some flopped. I've face planted on several. And we're doing great here. DrivenIQ's, but at the end of the day, you have to make those changes, invest in yourself, right?
Yes.
Set the route. I mean, listen, set the discipline and just make that happen, because you have to exercise the muscles. You have to do it. You
have to. So what's going to happen? It comes full circle. You got to get feedback again.
Yes.
You got to get 360 feedback.
Well,
you did it in the journey.
Yep.
You need it again. Well,
I need it again.
Okay, now where are I? What do I need to do?
Right.
Where am I? What's going on? And then you have to work with your coach to develop those muscles again.
Yeah. Listen, like I said, you got to maintain the spirit of coachability. You can't just say that, right? So you got to really, truly want to be coached, and that's how you're going to get better. You said a minute earlier, you said that you empower them to go where they've never been before and to feel that. Tell me why that is so critical to achieving success. I have a thought process, but I want to hear yours.
Well, in one of our definitions of leadership is our Peopletek definition. Right. Empowering yourself and others to go where you wouldn't have ever gone, and maybe not gone without a little bit of a nudge from
there you go.
Because we're coaches and we help people do that.
Yep.
So that's the true discipline of leadership. And it's the true magic of leadership. What you're doing with Digital Data Café, you're empowering the world to go to where it's never gone before.
Right.
And these companies, you're empowering all of your people that are part of it. You empowered yourself to go there.
Yes.
So it takes courage.
Yep.
And courage is the backbone. I wrote a book, The 12 Steps of Courageous Leaders. And that was the first book that I wrote many years ago. And it follows the journey, okay, if you will. And it has a term in there called courageability, which is the art and science of living your life with courage and discipline of courage. And it's empowering yourself to go where you haven't gone before. Why? Because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You've got to put yourself in an uncomfort zone to achieve your vision, your mission, your goals. And as a matter of fact, I always use Howard Stern as examples for leadership. And on one of his shows, he was interviewed as a master interviewer, and in one of his shows I heard he was interviewing, I can't remember exactly who it was, but that the person had a vision, mission, goals, and Howard asked him, did you have a backup plan? Because he was living on somebody's couch. And he was living on their couch. He was another famous person. And Howard said, did you have a backup plan? And he said, Howard, this is one thing I found. Anyone that had a backup plan never reached their dream, never lived their dream.
That is 100% right. That is because you're either all in or you're not.
You're either all in or you're not all
right,
in.
Right.
When I was sticking my toes in working for corporate, I went part-time first. Then I finally grudgingly jumped off. That was the best thing that ever happened.
The best thing that ever happened.
Jump off.
You have to. And it's funny because there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business, folks that want to be like, I want to own my own business. I want to start a business. And, I'll get asked that too. It's like, well, when was the right time? Listen, and you've got to do it. You just have to commit to it. And then, the other thing too about, empowering them to go where they've never been before. The other piece for me is that what it does is it unlocks something. And you know what it unlocks? It unlocks the fact that you attained it and you saw it and it maybe wasn't as hard as you thought. And then you realize, you know what? I can do this and more. And then you just go and set those vision, mission, goals and hit it and attain it and blow it through. And then you unlock more in your life.
There's some power that's watching over you. I can't explain what it is, but you're 100% right. I still question, like, oh yeah, okay, you just keep going. There is a definition that empowering yourself to go where you've never gone before, that is true leadership.
Yes.
Here's again, another way to build these muscles. Management is planning, organizing, controlling, and following up. And we all have to have disciplines in management. That in and of itself is important as well. Some people are better managers than others. Right. You have to have the people that have magic dust in management, the phenomenal strengths.
Yep.
Then there's being a great coach. And that's helping others to achieve their desired goals and objectives. And so you're helping them to reach their goals. You're coaching them. And then there's being a great technician. They're all great. The issue is you have to decide what lane are you going to play in.
That's it.
Because you only have a limited amount of time. If you're always going to be the technician working on the programming and making sure the bits and the bytes are all right, you don't have time to be a coach, a manager, or a leader. So you have to analyze how much time are you spending in each bucket.
I love that. I love that you said that because you know what? Sometimes we just do things just to do things and we're not really assessing, okay, am I being the coach here? Am I being the leader here? Am I being the technician? And yet you want to go from being the technician to being the coach. And then you're back to the technician and you're not giving yourself any justice in any one of those categories.
In anyone. And so you have to make a determination. We all have to spend time in all of them, but you can't be equal in all of them. One has got to be your decision. If you're going to be the leader, then you've got to be empowering people to go where they've never gone before. And you got to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then if you're going to be the manager, you better be a great one at it. You better have magic dust for it.
That's right. You better have magic dust. So, if I was interested in the journey, let's say I'm a business, how would one get involved with this? How would one get a hold of you? What would we do?
Well, we have a website and it's peopletekcoaching.com, PEOPLETEK. Coaching, COACHING.com. We would ask you to go there, contact me. I'm M. Kublin, KUBLIN, M. Kublin at peopletekcoaching.com. Send me a note. We'll chat about, is the journey appropriate for you? We run them in cohorts. We run them in cohorts of 10 to 12 people. We run an open enrollment several times a month. You sign up for a cohort and you're mixed with other leaders that are out there that are just like you, wanting to obtain goals, be the best leaders that they could be, and have this blueprint, I call it, this leadership journey.
Yeah.
And so that's the way you do it. There's also the complementary tools out there. There's the compass. Go out and print it off. It's out on the web. On
peopletekcoaching.com with a K. Coaching.com. And now I have to tell you, you should, if you're not doing this, you should go out and do this. Okay. I'm a living testament that it has changed my life. It will change the impact, and the byproduct of it will change the lives of my people, my team, my employees, their families' lives. Mike, you've made such a dramatic impact. I can't imagine how many lives you've touched with your coaching and your abilities. but you are celebrating a special journey, right? So let's wrap with that. Tell us what's
Thank
special
you
about this
so
one. Yeah,
much.
tell us.
We're celebrating, and I was totally in shock because my team was the one that figured it out. This year we hit 25 years in business, but we're
Wow.
also hitting, yes, 25 years ago we
Congrats.
started Peopletek. The journey didn't come till about 10 years later, but we're celebrating our 200th open enrollment journey. That means
Wow.
that it's not a company oriented. A lot of companies decide to run their own journeys. You know, they run them for their own teams, and that's fine. We love that. But also we love open enrollment. Why? Because you're learning from other leaders at other companies, and you're getting a chance to see that it's not much different. You know, they're
Right.
learning the same things. The things you think you're struggling with, that you're learning that they're struggling with it too.
Right.
So
Right.
you have an open area to talk about these things. And we're running our 200th journey. It is going to be special. We are going to do a special award during it, and
Well,
I look forward to that, going to that. I go to every graduation, as you know, Albert, and
yep.
I think I've only missed one, and that was because some other group was graduating at the same time.
Oh my
I
gosh.
couldn't be in person and virtual at the same time.
Well, I can tell you right now, DrivenIQ and Digital Data Cafe, both we're gonna we're obviously going to be sending our folks through the journey. So if you're a manager, if you're some small business owner, anybody's welcome to go to open enrollment, right? But then you
Yes.
also have
Yes.
large companies, right? They could reach out to you,
Oh,
right?
yes.
You've worked with
Yes.
American Express.
We work with American Express. We work with Bank United. We work with Sloan Kettering. We work with a lot of different organizations.
Right. So the Rolodex is there. You guys are it. You make leaders into visionary journeys. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And I'm so proud. I love what you're doing, Albert.
Oh my
and I
gosh.
can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much.
You're the journey in action, and that's where the real learning takes place.
Well, here's what I have to say at the end of it. Well, I appreciate that, but proof is in the continuing education and the continue to be vulnerable and grow.
I'll talk to that for a second.
Yeah.
Several years ago, a friend of mine had gone through a different leadership program, and somebody recommended that he go through the journey. And so he went through the journey. He was 80 years old when he went through it. His wife said, Mike, he's doing all of his homework. He's doing everything. He's learning. He's making changes. He told me if he had gone through the journey when he was so much younger, major decisions that he made would have shifted. He started a university in South Florida and built it into one of the largest universities anywhere. And unfortunately, he's deceased now. But at the end of the day, it made me so proud to hear how this person was able to shift and grow and was still learning.
Yeah. Well, you cannot ask for something that's as amazing as that and how you touch people's lives. So Mike, I really appreciate you and thank you for everything you've done and thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you, Albert. I so much appreciate it. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, sir.